right?
Right. So we need to find a different tax base, right? So what we have been looking at, for example, is an AI tax or a
What
VAT
is the AI
tax,
tax?
and so we need to tax basically if we understand that the AI is going to be going to generate a lot of new wealth in the future.
Oh, you mean
Uh,
the IT Titan, taxing for IT Titan.
yes.
Oh, okay, right.
Or VAT on Google searches or on Facebook visits, or um, make it possible to tax these global industries who are now very uh, yeah who are now taxed at a very low rate because they have the ability to basically cherry pick uh, uh, all kinds of tax regimes throughout the world. It's
Mm,
very, very difficult to basically harmonize tax throughout the world.
mm,
So we need to find different ways to tax the globalized um, economy. That's totally different from what it was 40, 50 years ago, when most of the production and consumption took place within the boundaries of a country. So
mm,
taxing that was rather straightforward. But nowadays, we are outsourcing a lot of our production. We are insourcing a lot of our revenue uh, from many different parts of the world, and it has become very easy to create
mm,
companies all over the world that are more or less
mm,
virtual organizations, more or less single bank accounts that make it rather simple to reduce your tax burden for
mm,
the companies who have enough money to do this. And this makes profitability of these globalized companies higher than localized companies, which creates an uh, unfair competitive advantage for companies like Facebook and Google,
mm,
which will lead to more globalization, which will lead to probably a intensification of the problem, more distance between the individual and the large corporate interests, the institutions. So this is a point of concern.
mm. That's right. Also, as you know, the Elizabeth Warren,
Hmm.
her recommendation is she want to tax for the personal assets.
Yeah,
Who
but like she's asking for 2% of wealth over $50 million, right? So that's
that's right, and that's right.
touches a very few people, but it touches the very rich. But it would be enough to actually create more equality.
That's right.
She's also actually this is Elizabeth Warren is very much active in this front. If you remember the video that we saw about empowering the consumers against corporate interests. So what she observes is that there is a lot of um, asymmetry between the corporations and the consumer. For example, when it comes to credit, the banks, the insurance companies, um, uh, they devise these policies with a lot of legal jargon, creating intransparency and creating unfair competitive advantage for the corporations. So what she has been doing in her life is basically um, making sure that consumers get a voice by involving them actively in institutions um, that can basically stand up against this inequality and make a fist against these corporations who were deliberately creating legal structures that give them an unfair advantage.
No, I don't understand. What is this? Consumer? I know that she tried to distribute 10% of asset of the company to workers. I know that 10% she tried to distribute. But what is the consumer involvement? What is this?
Do you remember the video that we saw? We saw that maybe 2-3 months ago. There was a video from Elizabeth Warren when she was addressing audience at Harvard. Basically, maybe you remember that she was talking about her grandchild that just had been born. So she was talking in that video about how consumers were so disadvantaged in perhaps to insurance companies, banks, and other institutions who gave loans, who created insurance policies that had all kinds of legal jargon, that had all kinds of conditions in them that were very intransparent. Consumers don't have access to this kind of legal support. It's very difficult to protect themselves against these lawyers from the corporations. So what she did is she created a consumer agency, and the consumer agency had active involvement of the general public in order for them to bring them together to make a fist against this unfair advantage for corporations.
Okay, understandable. Yeah. Do we have this kind of organization in Japan?
I think it's
reflect consumers' opinion. No.
I don't think it is. There is I think in the Netherlands we call it an ombudsman. It's a very powerful person,
yes,
very powerful organization, consumer organization. It has a long tradition, a long history, and it's a very well-known figure.
Maybe we have. I tried to for banking association.
It's rather new.
Huh?
I think this person. I think in Japan, such a person also has come into existence, such a entity, but it is rather new.
Really?
Yeah.
I think, but just based on his video, Japan do not have big income inequality, and so we don't have so much social problem, right?
Right, because actually the consumer I think in Japan there is consumers are very critical and they are rather strong, and there's also a lot of social cohesion. That means that word of mouth travels much faster in Japan than it does in the United States.
So company does not focus on stockholders yet.
In Japan, much less than in other countries, I think.
As you know, America now changing not only focus on stockholders, but many kind of interest group they were going to start focus on, right?
Yes.
It's a good tendency, but still America, they have no solution to decrease income gap.
No, there's still there's a very like a reflex in the United States that every time people are talking about reducing inequality within society, people say that's you're a socialist, that goes against everything we stand for. This is the United States, the country of limitless opportunities. If you work hard, you can make a success of yourself.
Right?
And the fact that the capitalism is something that is absolutely sacred, that you cannot challenge. Basically that's what most Americans believe in. They believe inequality is good because it drives wealth. Um, but actually, for the majority of the Americans, it doesn't work out that well.
Also, he said American dream, right? So this is American dream to how to get rich. So
Right.
this is very difficult to change their philosophy.
It is. But if you look at but on the other hand, it's difficult to change the philosophy. But I think part of what's happening, part of the reason why Donald Trump has become the president, is that basically he doesn't point at the American dream. He doesn't talk about the American dream. It doesn't hold true. He's blaming immigrants. He's blaming these unfair trade deals. He's blaming everything except the American dream and the American system. But actually, people are realizing that there are things wrong in their society, that they are not they cannot keep up with the top runners in their society, and they see through social media, through television, they see that the rich are getting richer, and they have difficulties to pay the rent, even though they have a steady job, because of high cost of living, because of high cost of healthcare, because of high cost of education for their children, and because they haven't seen a raise in maybe 10, 20 years. So they're not challenging inequality. They're not challenging taxation. They believe that these are the fundamentals of the American society. But evidence, like as shown as in the video from Mr. Wilkinson, shows that there may be something wrong with the model of the United States. And that a lot of the problems that we see, for example, large prison population, obesity, child obesity, trust, and these things, they can be connected to this enormous income inequality within their society.
But actually, Trump tried to reduce income inequality, but actually nothing happened, except they much more focus on big IT titan to collect tax from them. That's only the also he just focused on how to consider for the white collar people, laborers, to increase their income, but actually nothing happened. Right?
Right.
So it's just like you said, America has a fundamental issue, problems, not easy to be solved.
No, and actually the problems are going to be bigger if nobody's talking about the influence that technology will have in their society within the next few years. And this is America is a front runner in this field. So there will be more inequality within the next years to come. This will only accelerate, and this will lead to more problems.